Hi, my name is Heather Blackmore, and I'm a University of Illinois Extension Master Gardener. Now, many of us are going to be putting our gardens to sleep for the winter, but there's some things you can do right now to ensure that you have a beautiful bloom season as early as February of next year. Great way to do that is with the introduction of bulbs into the home landscape. Now, when selecting bulbs, you want to choose bulbs that are firm and have no signs of decay. Things like a soft spot or mushy feeling you want to avoid altogether. You want to choose the best bulb possible for the best outcome next year. If you choose things that are decaying, they may not come up for you in the spring. Now, here in the Midwest, we're notorious for heavy clay compacted soil. So there are a few things you're going to need to do before you even think about putting bulbs in the ground. You want to amend the soil as much as possible, meaning you want to add composted things like manure, mushroom compost, some leaf material to really aerate that soil and give it as many nutrients as possible so that you have the healthiest soil for your bulbs. I've already done that here. I've dug it out already. You can also use a traditional bulb digger if you'd like. It's a little more work. Easiest way to plant bulbs is simply by clearing the site to the proper planting depth. The bulb that I've chosen today is a tete-a-tete daffodil. It's a dwarf daffodil with a planting depth of about 4 inches. That's 4 inches measured from the base of the bulb up. So I've already cleared the site, I've amended the soil, and I've begun placing the bulbs. But before you place, you want to make sure that you add in some 10-10-10 soluble fertilizer or equivalent bulb fertilizer, plus 2 cups of bone meal for every 10 square feet that you intend to plant. I've already done that here. I've scratched it in. It's all ready. Then you can begin placing your bulbs. Sometimes, though, you may not be sure how deep to plant the bulbs. Maybe you don't have planting instructions. Good rule of thumb is you want to plant this bulb 2 to 3 times as deep as the bulb is tall. This one requires a 4-inch planting depth. Things like tulips and your traditional daffodils can be planted anywhere from 6 to 8 inches. So then you can place your bulb, kind of nestle it down in there, and it may be difficult to tell which end is up. It's very easy on these. The pointed top is what's going to be facing up towards the surface. That's where your foliage is going to emerge, as well as the bud. That's pointed upwards. Your root plate is going to be planted downwards, and that's going to have the first contact with the surface of your planting bed. Also, if you're unsure of which way it goes, and that can be difficult sometimes with the smaller bulbs especially, you can simply lay the bulb on its side, and it will right itself. It will find its way to the surface eventually. So once you've got them in place, you can backfill with your soil. Once you've backfilled, covered the bulbs up, you want to mulch with about 2 to 3 inches of mulch just to help retain the moisture. And then you want to water them in well. You want to water deeply simply because, keep in mind, these bulbs in particular were planted 4 inches beneath the surface. There are some bulbs that are going to be 6 to 8 inches, which means you're going to want to water thoroughly enough so that the water has a chance to really saturate down into those roots that are pretty far beneath the surface. You want to water them in, and then you simply wait until you start seeing it emerge next spring. Now in the spring, when you see the green emerge from the surface of your planting bed, it's a great time to really keep an eye on it, monitor the rainfall. If we haven't had sufficient rain, you can begin watering to about 1 inch of rain per week, and just keep an eye on the soil, just check it. You want to avoid, once you start seeing the bud form, you want to avoid watering that bud. If you water that bud directly, you run the risk of rotting it and having no bloom altogether. And that will apply to anything that you're growing in your flower bed. You don't want to water the foliage, you want to water the earth. So once that's happened and you fertilize, you only need to fertilize 1 time. Just keep an eye on it, let it go to bloom. Big mistake a lot of homeowners make is once that bloom is spent, they want to chop it down. Big mistake simply because when you chop that plant down and you eliminate that foliage, you eliminate the food stores for next year. That green that remains in the foliage is where photosynthesis is taking place, and that's the manufacture of food for the bulb for the following growing season. Eliminating that removes the food stores. So keep that intact as long as it's green. Once it goes yellow, then you can remove it. That means the food manufacturing process has stopped. So then you can eliminate it, cut it back. If it's really unsightly, you can't stand the look of decaying foliage, you can overplant the site with things like daylily or hosta, simply to camouflage it so it's not as visible to the eye and you're not focusing on it every time you take a trip through your landscape. And hopefully this has helped you and is going to help kick off your growing season as early as possible next year. And if you choose properly, you can have flowers blooming in your garden as early as February. So really think about extending your growing season. And if you have any further questions, please contact the University of Illinois Extension Master Gardeners. We're there to help you grow. We handle anything from grasses, trees, shrubs, flowers, you name it. We'll help you. You can contact us at 815-727-9296.